part of Cambridge Defend Education here, which is a broad united front that doesn't have any specific politics but is working around issues in the education sector.
So we're here today basically because 2 days ago the university's Vice-Chancellor decided to ignore the legitimate means by which we've been trying to preserve the bursaries for students at Cambridge University. But actually he's been quite complicit in the process of basically making poorer people pay for the crisis that they didn't cause.
We don't need no education.
I think it pretty much blows like access schemes out of the water. I've been involved in access for like 3 years, every year I've been here, and it's a really important part of what Cambridge does. It's always fighting an uphill battle really, because we've still got such high intake from elite schools, but reducing bursaries and cutting them in half in such a savage way is really actually just going to blow it out of the water. Every access visit I do, one of the main things I tell students is it actually works out being cheaper to come to Cambridge University because you get all these bursaries, all these support, and that's just not going to be there for them anymore. I do feel that it shows a little bit of contempt for the student and the academic community of Cambridge.
Because it's very clear that, you know, forms of democracy are a bit of a sham and really aren't working very well.
Teacher, leave them kids alone.
I think generally we've had really good media coverage.
I think there's been some good stuff. I think like it's very easy to say that the media have been kind of stereotyping students, and they have to some extent.
It's been really good, and generally I think has moved past what was quite a damaging method of portraying students protesting around education as, you know, students looking out for their own interests and really being quite selfish about things. And I think since December really, when we saw 50,000 people marching not for themselves but for future sixth form students who were soon to be university students, that was essentially 50,000 people out there marching in solidarity, which is something we haven't seen in the UK for a long time, I don't think.
There's been some good stuff, but there's also been some wild mischaracterisations. I think one of them is that the obvious one, that students are violent. That's not true. Secondly, that it's all been middle class students just protesting about not having to pay like money that their parents could pay. And if you go to the London protest, it's full of sixth formers, it's full of school kids, it's full of people that literally, like the ones you speak to there, they will not go to university.
Well, I mean, as you can see, this is a fairly relaxed scene in front of us. The police have come nowhere near university property today, and we have some university constabulary who are on the gate to ensure that undesired elements of the town don't enter. I think that this is partially due to the fact that there was a big blow-up in the media last week, or a couple of weeks ago in fact, after the police came into King's College essentially illegally, or at least with the expressed disapproval of the Vice Provost of the college who was standing there, and violently arrested two people, me and a sixth former. We had just been on a peaceful protest around town and were followed after the protest had ended into King's and arrested. So I think really the police are under quite a lot of pressure around that. There's been a complaint from King's College and a number of eyewitnesses, and I'm presuming that means they're taking a bit more of a hands-off approach. They've been coming into local county council meetings and arresting people for asking questions in public question time about the rationale behind these cuts. So it's really moving from, you know, a kind of a police repression in some senses on the streets to actually now trying to police our public meetings, our council meetings, which are the democratic bodies in which we decide how we'd like our budget to be set out. So I really think, you know, that there are very problematic aspects there, definitely.
I mean, I wasn't heavily involved before this year in activism, and I don't think you need to be an activist to come out on a protest.
Yeah, essentially, you know, we really encourage people to come and get involved because it's not really too late to do something about this.
But if you do care about bursaries, you care about the idea that anyone should be allowed to study at an institution like this, regardless of how much money their parents earn, then you should be getting out on the street. You should be talking to your friends about this. You should be talking to your lecturers and your academics about this, and letting them know that these issues are really not going to lie. Although the average Cambridge student might be like head down in books a lot of the time and in the library, that actually they recognise the injustice of the policies that the Vice-Chancellor is pursuing.